Coming up on today's episode of the Virtual Couch, it's New Year's resolution time, but wait! There's a new sheriff in town. This year it's going to be different, and I mean it. Put acceptance and commitment therapy into your New Year's resolutions and watch them take off. That and more coming up on today's episode of the Virtual Couch. Okay, before we get started today, I believe I am going to present to you my very favorite email of all time with regard to BetterHelp.com. And it reads, Tony, I get it. You have a book. Sorry, that makes me laugh right out of the gate. But what's with not airing the BetterHelp.com info before your podcasts? I feel like I'm talking to text. I wanted to tell you that there was a question mark after that. But anyway, back to the email. I found BetterHelp.com thanks to your ads before your podcast. Thanks to BetterHelp.com, I was able to find someone that could help me understand and deal better with my ADHD. I would love it if you would continue to air the BetterHelp.com ads before your podcast, because that is the way that you are going to continue to help more people. I know the book is going to be good, and I plan on getting it when it's in electronic format. Don't get me wrong. I really want to hear you and your co-authors' take on pornography, addiction, and betrayal trauma, but I don't want that necessarily laying around on my coffee table. Do you see why I love this email? So, I can't wait to get the book, and I promise you I will write a wonderful review when I do. But for now, can you make sure and put the BetterHelp.com ad before your podcast, because it has literally changed my life. I was going to do it again. I was going to say period. Before I heard your ad, I had never been to a therapist. And quite frankly, I was going to go to my grave without ever going to therapy. But thanks to BetterHelp.com, I really was able to quickly find someone that I have fit with who can help me with my ADHD. Thank you for all of the work that you do. And please let other people know that BetterHelp.com can literally change their life. And P.S., it's pretty affordable. Okay. Thank you for that email. Now you can understand why I really wanted to read that one. And in particular, he talks about ADHD, and that's something that we're talking about on today's podcast. I guess I just made this ad a non-evergreen. So if you hear this one and the episode is not about ADHD, please know that I just got a little bit lazy and put this one before, because I really like the content of this email, but you'll enjoy the episode, whatever is coming up next. But go check out what over 500,000 people have already done before. Sign up now by going to betterhelp.com/virtualcouch, VIRTUALCOUCH, and get the help that you need or that you didn't even know that you needed today. There's a broad range of expertise in BetterHelp's counselor network. As you heard in this email, you can find somebody that speaks fluent ADHD, or people that work with OCD, anxiety, depression, you name it. The service is available for clients worldwide. You can log onto your account at any time and send a message to your counselor, and you'll get a timely and thoughtful response. And you can schedule weekly video phone sessions. You won't ever have to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room, as with traditional therapy. BetterHelp will assess your needs, match you with your own licensed professional therapist, and oftentimes you can start communicating in under 24 hours, which I will tell you, that can be difficult. There are times where I may not be able to get somebody in for a few weeks. So in under 24 hours is incredible. And if you do go through betterhelp.com/virtualcouch, you'll receive 10% off your first month's services. So what are you waiting for? You owe it to yourself. At the very least, just go check it out. Go ahead, pause the podcast right now, and go do it. I'm not going anywhere, but I think you are going to enjoy today's episode. So once again, betterhelp.com/virtualcouch. Try it today. Take 7 or 8. Thank you for tuning into episode 174 of the Virtual Couch. I'm your host, Tony Overbay. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, certified mindful habit coach, writer, speaker, husband, father of 4, ultra marathon runner, and co-author of the best-selling book, He's a Porn Addict, Now What? An expert and a former addict answer your questions, in which I play the role of the expert, and I'm creator of The Path Back, an online pornography recovery program that is helping people reclaim their lives from the harmful effects of pornography. If you or anyone that you know is struggling to put pornography or any type of compulsive sexual behavior behind them once and for all, and trust me, it can be done in a strength-based hold to shame, become the person you always knew you could be way, then please head over to pathbackrecovery.com. There you can download a short ebook that describes 5 common mistakes that people make when trying to get rid of pornography once and for all. Again, that's pathbackrecovery.com. I made it! It wasn't quite the 7th or 8th take, but I was definitely on about 4 or 5. And I was determined at that point to power through. And please visit Virtual Couch on Instagram, as well as the Virtual Couch page on Facebook, or the Tony Overbay Licensed Marriage and Family Therapist page on Facebook as well. And if you have a minute and you've enjoyed any of the Virtual Couch podcast material, especially over the last few months, please do me a favor and rate, review, subscribe the podcast wherever you get your podcast. Share it with a friend if there's some topic that you feel can help someone. I get a lot of emails, and I love that, absolutely love that. And I've noticed the reason I kind of say the last few months, I think just as the podcast continues to grow, I'm getting a lot of a lot of email feedback from people who say that a friend sent them the episode, or basically that, or somebody in their family shared an episode with them, and then they've kind of gone on and binged on some episodes and that sort of thing. So of course I'm always grateful for that. And Salt Lake City, I'm coming to speak at the Outlier Podcast Festival on Saturday, January 25th, and I can't wait. And I'm speaking on a subject that I am very familiar with, the dreaded imposter syndrome, and how truly living in podcasting in this sense from your values is absolutely necessary in order just to live a far more authentic, empowered life. And you can find out more at outlierpodfest.com, and go take a look at the show notes. I have a coupon code if you want to attend the podcast festival, the Outlier Podcast Festival. I think it gets you 15% off your ticket for the podcast festival. And I had mentioned I've already got a little bit of feedback here. I'm looking at possibly speaking at a fireside on Sunday the 26th, and the plans are definitely a little bit up in the air. So if you happen to be in a position where you may want to have me come speak either to your congregation during the day on Sunday the 26th, or maybe a fireside that evening, please just drop me an email at contact@tonyoverbay.com. And I would absolutely love to squeeze the most out of every minute that I am there. All right, so this is today I'm going to do a little bit of talk on resolutions. And what I had talked about doing last week was bringing back, I believe it's episode 97, which is the episode last year where I talked about New Year's resolutions and acceptance and commitment therapy. And I've honestly always wanted to go back and take an episode and maybe re-record the intro or get rid of some of the things that might not be as applicable, and then just dive right into the topic. So let's get right to that. Here is an encore presentation of acceptance and commitment therapy and New Year's resolutions.
Come on in and take a seat on the virtual couch.
So today I want to talk about New Year's resolutions. Don't turn that dial. We're going all evidence-based data on this. We're going to use acceptance and commitment therapy to change the way you view resolutions, that sort of thing. I realized when I did a podcast on this last year, I wasn't banging my acceptance and commitment therapy drum as hard as I have been the last year, because it works, and so many people have. It's kind of. They've connected with acceptance and commitment therapy, so I want to get to that. I think it's going to change the way that you set and accomplish your resolutions. But first, the data. I love this. And the hard part is you can find so much data on New Year's resolution statistics. And this morning I even did one of those things where I wanted to get some stats before I went to record. And oh, what a rabbit hole. I mean, there were a couple of sites that looked like they had this great data, but then I have to sign up for a subscription or an account, and then the account leads me to something else, and all of a sudden then I'm bailing out of that, and just a couple of rabbit holes that I went on. But I basically dug up, it was funny, I ended up finding the statistics that I found for the most part last year. And so here's what they were. Most people made several resolutions. 67% of people made 3 or more resolutions. Increasing the amount of exercise that one did was the most common primary resolution. Over 37% of people making resolutions made the resolution of increasing the amount of exercise. And people made more resolutions to start or increase a behavior, 84%, than to stop or decrease something, 16%. And I personally am more of a, hey, let's do something instead of trying to stop something, because stopping something inevitably, and we'll talk about this in a minute, when one maybe doesn't continually stop something, then they feel guilt, and then they go into those stories the brain will tell them of, see, I couldn't do this anyway. So I love the concept of making a resolution to start a behavior. The most interesting thing is only 65% made their resolutions between December 28th and New Year's Day. So the rest made pledges that they consider to be New Year's resolutions as early as in May and as late as the end of January. So if you don't make your resolutions before the Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve ball drops on Times Square, it is perfectly okay. No one is going to come knock on your door and arrest you if you haven't made your resolution by New Year's Eve or by January 1st at 12:01. nor will you get in trouble if you make it then that next day. So here's the big one. Persistence pays off. Of those who successfully achieved their top resolutions, only 40% of them did so on the first attempt. The rest made multiple tries, with 17% finally succeeding after more than 6 attempts. That's significant. And again, we're going to talk about that. Okay, so let's introduce the concept of acceptance and commitment therapy into the New Year's resolution fray. So if you're not familiar with acceptance and commitment therapy, I highly recommend you going back and listening to several of the podcasts that I've done on acceptance and commitment therapy. But in a nutshell, here's how it works. We are going to set a goal. You're going to set a goal. And so obviously a New Year's resolution is going to be some type of goal. Now, before we even get to that goal setting, one of the most important things you can do is go do a values exercise. And I'm going to put a link on the show notes here of a wonderful free downloadable worksheet from the book that I love called The Confidence Gap by Russ Harris, which I highly recommend. The Confidence Gap is not just a book about confidence, but it's a acceptance and commitment therapy manual, and has all the evidence-based data around acceptance and commitment therapy, and just has extremely good practical data on how to put acceptance and commitment therapy principles into your life. But it is so important to go do a values exercise. And here's the big thing about doing a values exercise. There are so many values that sound wonderful and fantastic in this downloadable PDF file that you can go through and look at your values. I think there's 57 values on there, and almost all of them are going to resonate with you to some point. Values everything from assertiveness to authenticity to humor to adventure to creativity to being mindful of the moment to freedom to all of these things. And when I'm working with clients, one of the first things that I say is, I want to do the values exercise with you individually. I don't even want your spouse to be a part of this, which I know can sound anti-marriage therapy, but here's why. Because out of these 57 values on this one particular downloadable PDF file that goes through your values, if you're sitting there and let's just say that in honesty is one that when honesty comes up, if a lot of people are going to go with that's going to be a very core value. But what if it's not? Because what if honesty to you is you grew up in a family where people were, quote, brutally honest, where it was like, look, I'm just being honest. And that was used as a weapon. Then that honesty, that do I look fat in these jeans? What do you think about my haircut? Those sort of things. If you grew up with that being something that honestly, it was used as a weapon, it hurt people, then honesty is going to be something that you support, but it's not necessarily going to be one of these core values. And I've given the example before of how some of this works. One of the ones I gave recently, so forgive me if you've heard this example before, but I had a client whose goal was making money. And he was working in a situation where he was making money, but he just didn't feel right about the way that they were making money. It wasn't anything illegal, but it was just, I don't know, the ethics were a little bit sketchy. So when we did the values exercise, honesty and authenticity were two of his core values. Core values, big time core values. There were stories behind why those were important to him. So he was achieving the goal of making money, but he was going against these core values of honesty and authenticity. Basically, he was working for a company that was upselling some services to older people, and the services, he felt just like he wasn't doing the right thing in upselling some of these services. So he was going against his core values of honesty and authenticity. The reason those were his core values was he grew up in a home with a very narcissistic mom who changed the story all the time. He never knew what was right. Never knew. People could ask him, somebody could say, where'd you guys go on vacation? Or what's your favorite vacation? And his mom would, it's almost like everybody would look to mom. What story is she going to spend this time? Is it going to be something that they really did? Is it a time where they went to Disneyland, where he remembers they were there for a day and a half and everybody fought and, mom was really angry. And now she has embellished the story to this point where they stayed a week and they stayed in the Disneyland Grand Hotel and everything was great. And isn't that right, kids? So he lived in this complete world of, I can't be honest. I can't be authentic. And so those were his core values. So when we assessed this, we did this values exercise, he realized, okay, he really can't work where he is working. And again, one of the simple ones that I did one time, an example was working with a client who was home for the summer and they needed a job. They needed money bad. Their family was in a pretty bad spot and they wanted to continue in college. They had struggled with filling out some financial aid forms on time. So this person needed a job. They really didn't want to work fast food but they got the job, fast food. So we we on that one, he just felt like he was just going in, working the grill every day, and he was miserable. So we did a values exercise, and his values were adventure, learning, knowledge, fun. And so we purposely then said, take those values into your current work environment and now try to work those values into where you're at. And so instead of just sitting there kind of saying, okay, no, I'm the grill guy, don't ask anything else of me. When there was any bit of downtime, he was learning all kinds of stuff, learned the shake machine, learned the fry machine, learned all of these things. And so quickly was able, even in that summer, to kind of rise at the fast food establishment he was at, make more money, kind of get a little bit better position, and really enjoyed it. And I think that this summer he's probably going to return there. So that was a way of putting your values into a situation and then living by your values. But so in the world of resolutions, though, if you are setting a goal that doesn't adhere to your particular values, then that just becomes some rule. It really does. And there's so many examples I could give that I think illustrate this point. There's another one right now where I work in the world of a lot of Christian counseling, and a lot of people have this goal of, let's say, reading scriptures every day for 15 minutes. But if their value, if their core values are more about, maybe it is this excitement or adventure or that sort of thing. Maybe somebody struggles with their attention span, which is something I can definitely understand. Then when they sit there and their goal is to spend 15 minutes just reading linearly through scripture that they are not following, that then they feel like, what's wrong with me and I don't understand this and why does everybody else do it? They feel worse at the end of that 15 minutes. But if they play to their values, one of the guys I was working with, he gets a couple minutes in and all of a sudden he says, wonder what they wore in that time period. So now he hits Google and then he finds out about that time period. And then he's okay, wonder what their foods were. I wonder what so now this story, these scriptures, this part comes alive to him. And so he's playing to his values. So now that goal has changed. It's not just read for 15 minutes. It's spend 15 minutes in study of the scripture, and it can look a lot different because that's authentic to him. That is a goal that is based on his value. So I want you to think of that in terms of do some sort of values exercise before you just set some New Year's resolution, or else it is just going to be a rule. And when it's just a rule and it's not a goal based on your values, you're going to see here in a minute when we throw the acceptance and commitment therapy principles in there, it's going to be really easy for your brain to kind of lock in and fuse to these, see, I told you couldn't do it story. And so that's going to be key. So to kind of frame things then, there's a metaphor used in acceptance and commitment therapy. There's a few of them that I really love, but this one is I want to set the stage with this one. It's called the mind bully. So this metaphor is specifically meant for people who struggle with particular emotion or diagnosis of anger, anxiety, depression, that sort of thing. But I want to kind of frame it in regard to resolutions, and you'll see why. So in this metaphor, the mind bully is our particular problem, and it's an extremely large, extremely strong bully. Matter of fact, go back to scriptural stories. David and Goliath, right? This is Goliath. This person is huge, and mind bully has all kinds of maybe armor and very big, talking junk to you, all this sort of thing. So extremely large and strong bully. You are on an opposite side of a pit, and you're tugging back and forth on a rope as the mind bully tries to make you fall into the pit. So just imagine this game of tug of war, and you are trying with everything you can to pull against this mind bully, because the mind bully is trying to bully your mind, trying to tell you all kinds of stuff that isn't true, or that he wants you to believe are true about, I don't know, how bad you are. You're not going to do these things. That's the mind bully. The mind bully is saying that you're not going to, try to set a resolution there, chief. You're not going to accomplish it. But when we pull on the rope, when we listen, we pay attention, or even believe this mind bully, this kind of monster, what we're actually doing is feeding it. Like any petty bully, the mind bully can only harm us if we engage with it or we believe the negative things it says. So is it saying, you call that an effort? You think you're pulling that rope? I could pull you into that pit any minute, and you're continuing to tug, and it's like, I'm going to give it all I can. I mean, you're hearing all these nice motivational things going through your head of, just keep trying harder. How bad do you want this? Those sort of things. But instead of pulling on the rope, what do you think would happen if you just drop the rope? Right? If you let go of the rope, the mind bully's still there. He's still hurling his insults and meanness, but it can't pull you toward the pit at all. So the less that we feed the mind bully, the less that we try to engage in the mind bully, the smaller and quieter it will get. I am convinced of that with kind of the cool work that I get to do with a couple of wonderful places that do brain scans and that sort of thing, where your brain will eventually grow tired of trying to fight with you if you're not willing to engage in it, if you're not willing to fight it. So in dealing with difficult problems like anxiety or depression, or in this situation, resolutions and doubt, if we stop feeding the mind bully, and we just notice it, we acknowledge it, but then we shift our attention away from it instead of believing what it says, You can do that by engaging in a quick mindfulness exercise, whether it's deep breathing, whether it's refocus, whether it's just being really present, whether it's taking what the mind bully is saying and just, there's a nice exercise called leaves on a stream, where you just taking those thoughts, throwing them on a leaf and just floating them down a stream. Whatever you can do is a great way to learn how to drop that rope and just drop it. Leave the mind bully standing on the other side of the pit. So I want to kind of frame things with that. So think in terms of this mind bully. So let's go back to if you're, New Year's resolutions. So I pulled a article by a researcher called John Norcross, who was a professor of psychology at the University of Scranton, Pennsylvania. Any Office fans? Watched a lot of that over Christmas, I can't lie. Somebody posted the title of the post was basically "You're welcome," and it was "Here's all the Christmas episodes of The Office." So we watched a lot of that over the break, which was a lot of fun. But so psychology professor at the University of Scranton, who is an expert in behavior change and resolutions, did an article that basically said, it says, when people fail, early slips do not predict failure, says Norcross, who authored the study about resolutions. In fact, many ultimately successful resolvers report, even as they experience them, that early slips strengthen their resolutions. Because what do you do with that data? That's me inserting that point. Here comes the acceptance and commitment therapy model. When you fail at something, and fail can sound like a dramatic word, but when you no longer are moving forward towards your resolution, what do you do with that data? Do you fuse to the story that your brain's trying to tell you that, you never keep resolutions? Resolutions are silly anyway. You don't need to set New Year's resolutions in order to change a habit, all of those sort of things. Because now let's go back and look at how acceptance and commitment therapy works. So you have this goal. Hopefully by now you've got your values that are leading to the goal, like we talked about. Now, this is what I love. Even if you're going to let's say that we're going to set the goal. I love this example of, I'm going to run a marathon. Okay. Kind of fun to sit back. You say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to run a marathon. And guess what your brain does? It shoots a little squirt of dopamine, this feel good drug to the pleasure reward center of your brain. And you're like, yeah, let's do it. Now what acceptance and commitment therapy says is now step back and watch what the brain does with that. They call it the reason giving machine, kind of more a little bit like making some excuses, but your brain's immediately going to say, okay, but it's cold outside. I don't have a running buddy. I don't want to hurt my knees. I've read about that. I don't have good shoes. I don't have a training program. I don't even know when a marathon is. I definitely don't have. Your brain's going to start going in overtime because what it's trying to do is the brain, bless its little heart, it wants to just continue to do what it's doing right now. It's a little bit afraid of, where you're going to take it next. It's afraid that you're going to commit to run this marathon and you're just going to go crazy with this. And you're going to, who knows what the brain thinks you're going to do, but it's going to be something that's different than what it knows right now. And the brain's goal is to live forever. And it knows what the data is that it has to work with right now. So your brain's trying to hook you or fuse you to these stories. If it can fuse you to the, I don't really know how to train for a marathon anyway, well, guess what? You're done. If you hooked and fused to that story, if that becomes your truth, your belief, now you're not going to have to go out and do a web search and find a training program, and you're not going to actually have to do the work. So your brain's trying to hook or fuse you to stories that get you to stop from doing the work, whatever that work is, working toward that goal. So again, is that what your brain is doing when you maybe don't stay on your New Year's resolution for a couple of days, and then look at what your brain's going to say at that point. And that's where it goes into is it trying to get you to fuse to this story of resolutions are silly. You don't have to set a New Year's resolution. You never keep them anyway. So the key to success is coming back from these slips stronger than ever and then course correcting. Use that data to get yourself on the right path. So Norcross said, here are 5 science-based ways to restart your resolutions. Number 1, give yourself a reality check. Norcross says that he often asks faltering resolvers if they experienced failure when learning a new skill, ever, like learning an instrument, learning a sport. The answer, of course, is yes. People fail dozens and dozens of times, and they'll accept failure as part of that process. But only in behavior change, for some reason, is it different, Norcross says. In the psychological realm, we expect perfection. If we say that we're going to eat better, if we're going to eat clean from this day forward, we expect perfection. Why? If we're on the what did I say? Sports field. We don't expect perfection. We don't know how to shoot a free throw when we very first learn how, or we're not very good at it, but we practice. But for some reason, in the psychological realm with behavioral change, we expect perfection. So give yourself a reality check. Remove that expectation of perfection. Again, you've now hopefully got a value-based goal, which is part of your resolution. And now we're going to gather some data. You're going to fail. It's okay. Don't fuse to those stories that this isn't going to work, or this isn't for you, or you're not the kind of person that keeps resolutions, any of those sort of things. So number 2, Norcross says reframe your resolution. So other research on New Year's resolutions has shown that people are more likely to succeed if their goals bring them immediate rather than delayed benefits. No surprise there, right? So enjoying the day-to-day pursuit of a resolution is a better predictor of success than working toward a lofty long-term payoff, says Caitlin Woolley, an associate professor of marketing at Cornell University and co-author of the study on New Year's resolutions. She said the trick with long-term goals is to think about how they are also providing benefits in the moment. So if your initial resolution was to work out in order to improve your health, for example, you might see better results if you think about shorter-term goals. How fun was your workout? How nice it is to spend time with your friends or listen to music while you sweat. That's something that's enjoyable right in the moment, Woolley says. So that's what I love too, is that now we got to go back to your values, right? If your value is friendship, I mean, if your value is you enjoy music or whatever those values are, play to those, because here's the deal. It's that thing where somebody's going to say, well, I need to go to the gym. I need to take classes. I need to do whatever. Those are what you're fusing to is those stories. So if your goal then, if with this data, if you realize I can't get to the gym, I've only got 15 minutes. Now your brain's going to say, and 15 minutes isn't enough for a workout. So if your brain fuses to that, guess what you don't have to do? You don't have to work out for 15 minutes. There are people that I know, and actually I do this all the time in my office, doing sets of push-ups between clients, or you can do air squats, or you name it. You can do anything. You could, and I know this sounds silly, but, go use the restroom upstairs and use the stairs every day. Some people are going to say that's not a big deal. Well, guess what? If you're fusing to that's not a big deal, that doesn't do me any good story, then you don't have to do it. So, here's what we're trying to do is just work toward these goals, these value-based goals. So, get your value in there. If the value's fun for your workout, then have fun. It's okay. It's better than fusing to my workout isn't supposed to be fun story, because if that's the case, now you're going to do some workout you don't even like, and you're going to be more likely to not continue. Find a buddy. That's another one. Number 3. Having a resolution buddy doesn't make a lot of difference right away, Norcross says, but social support starts to make a big impact around February. I love that. Or, about a month or so in. The research-informed explanation is that virtually anybody can get through a couple of weeks with a neutral or even toxic environment, but that begins to weigh heavily, he says. Having a friend or family member who's going through the same thing may give you the strength to stick to it. And even that concept of somebody going through the same thing, there are groups on Facebook, there are other groups online where people have a shared experience with exercise or with diet or whatever those goals. That's why, people have told me a lot about Weight Watchers weigh-ins. That's a great one for acceptance and commitment therapy. If it's I don't want to be embarrassed, but one of those, guess what? If your brain can get you to fuse to that I don't want to be embarrassed story, then you don't have to go there. You don't have to have some accountability buddy. You don't have to put yourself out there. You don't have to do that uncomfortable work. So that's why I love acceptance and commitment therapy and any of these kind of things. So find a buddy. I ran for years. Shout out to my old friend Tom Wagner, who is now living up in Rexburg, Idaho. But Tom and I ran together for years and years and years, and there were many, many times that I just knew Tom's going to be out there at 4:30, so I got to meet him out there. And once in a blue moon, I would be out in front of his house, he would sleep in, or he would be out in front of my house, I would sleep in. But that was rare. Had my running buddy, and that led to a whole lot of fun times. We did a lot of races together and just solved all the world's problems while we were running. It was a lot of fun. Number 4, change your environment. Chances are something triggered you to this lapse of your resolution. So whether it was a person or a place or a bad habit, Norcross said avoiding those triggers and replacing them with people, places, and things that will help you stick to your goal is crucial. He said you'll have to gradually re-expose yourself to triggers, but he said taking them out of the equation early on will make it easier to cement the new habit. And I love that even in the work that I get to do with addiction is you are identifying the triggers. I talk about the habit cycle. There's a trigger, then there's a thought, and then there's an action. So there are a lot of triggers that are going to be biologically hardwired, or triggers that are somewhat unavoidable, but there are going to be triggers that you can manage. If a trigger is being home alone, I'm going back to the addiction model. Guess what you can do? When you know that you're going to be home alone, don't be home alone. Control that trigger. Go do something out in public. Go meet a friend. Alter your work schedule. Whatever it is, you can modify those triggers. So I love that Norcross is saying the same thing with habits. Change your environment. And the last one, he said, restart at the right time. Research suggests that starting a behavior change on a day that holds a psychological significance, whether that's the first of the month or birthday or an anniversary, may modestly improve your chances of success. So this is a funny one because I know sometimes in the acceptance and commitment therapy world, if somebody said, I'm going to eat better, and they start on Monday, and then by Wednesday, they have stopped eating well, and then they say, okay, well, you can't start again on a Wednesday or a Thursday. I'm going to wait till next Monday. And actually, now that it's the second week of the month, I might as well wait till the next month. Now, those are examples of if we fuse to that story, then we don't have to get back on the wagon as far as diet or exercise or whatever the resolution is. So we want to be careful with that. We want to avoid that. But Norcross is saying that there is a it may modestly improve your chances of success to attach a date or something that holds psychological significance. And that's why people do the whole resolution thing to begin with, is there's significance there. New year, new you, right? So one caveat, and this is what I love, he touches on that. Don't wait for a big day if it's just another way to put off a healthy change. We tell people to go when you are best ready, Norcross says, without resorting to procrastination and yet another excuse. So I just pulled up a couple of very common resolutions, and I want to go through these and just, what have I got, 3 or 4 of these here, and then I'll just throw the acceptance and commitment therapy version of these. I'll make these quick. So common resolution, I am going to eat healthier. The smarter resolution, and I really do love this concept, I'm going to have at least 2 pieces of fruit a day, and I'm going to eat a salad before every dinner. So that's a more measurable, that's something that is going to happen during the day. Goes back to that. You're going to get a little bit more satisfaction knowing that you're doing something each day. And why it works. Picking 1 or 2 things to focus on is much more realistic than changing your entire diet. And that is to, I didn't get the first, someone named Gans who wrote an article about this. But instead of changing your entire diet, telling yourself when you're going to incorporate these changes during your day makes it more attainable, says Gans. Plus, focusing on what you should be eating helps you avoid a restrictive, I can't eat that mindset, which often just leads to a junk food binge. So the acceptance and commitment therapy version of this is, let's say now that you are your new goal, your smarter resolution, I'm going to have at least 2 pieces of fruit a day and maybe eat a salad before dinner. And then let's say you go 2, 3, 4, even a week, 4 or 5 days, even a week, where you now realize and you recognize this happens. This is okay. We're human. That, oh my gosh, I haven't had a piece of fruit during this time. Your brain's going to immediately go to the, okay, see, you can't even keep this one up, or you don't even, you haven't even made it a priority to go get fruit or whatever it is. So if your brain can get you to hook or fuse to that story that this isn't going to work, see, you tried, you're no good, you're a failure, whatever those are, then you don't have to do it again. You don't have to get back on the wagon. You don't have to say, okay, I'm going to go to the store, get some apples, banana, whatever it is, and I'm going to start this back up. There's the new data. There's the acceptance and commitment therapy model. So we've got something that is more tangible, a smarter resolution that's hopefully based on your values. And then if and when you recognize, again, because the chances are you are going to fail. With psychological or behavioral change, you do not need to expect perfection. And then just look at that from what's my brain trying to fuse me to? I see what you're trying to do there, brain. Move along. Nothing to see here. Where's that apple? That's what we're trying to do. So, common resolution. I'm going to work out every day. Heard that one. I've kind of even said that one a time or 2. Smarter resolution. I'm going to exercise 2 or 3 days a week. Why it works. Going from 0 to 100 just isn't realistic, says obesity specialist Spencer Nadolsky. If fitness isn't a part of your daily routine and then you make a pact to hit the gym daily, you're going to burn yourself out. You're going to quit after a month. If that. The smarter approach, start hitting the gym a few days a week, and that's something that actually works with your schedule, or squeeze in a quick run during lunch, or maybe you'll hit the gym while your kids are at basketball practice. It'll make you more likely to commit and stick to your new routine. Once you know you can commit to twice a week, you can gradually bump things up. And that's a good one where even if it's, okay, I'm going to go to the gym 2 or 3 days a week, and now you're recognizing that because of your schedule or whatever it is that I can't even get to the gym, that's where your brain think, oh, that's an easy one. That's a layup for your brain. Your brain can say, see, you can't even go to the gym. So then it's like, okay, now what do I do with that data? Now I can work with I can do push-ups, I can do sit-ups, I can do air squats. And that's where one might say, I only have 10 minutes to run. I really do. Then it's like, don't fuse to and 10 minutes isn't enough story. Go for it. 10 minutes is better than nothing. So let's go to another one. The common resolution. I'm going to land my dream job this year. Smarter resolution. I'll expand my professional network. network. And I work with this one a lot. I do a lot of business coaching. I do a lot of work with individuals who, maybe they don't want to go down the traditional therapy route, but they really want help in changing a job or something like that. And in this one, I think it's interesting because people will feel stuck if they just say, I need a new job. And then they just turn to Indeed.com or ZipRecruiter or one of those, and they start to just try to look for jobs. It will feel overwhelming. But if the goal is, the smarter resolution is, I'm going to expand my professional network, that one's a little bit better. That one might be, I've had people here in the local area go to alumni events for their college, or get involved in a Chamber of Commerce event or a Better Business Bureau breakfast or luncheon, and just start to expand a professional network, because sometimes those relationships are what might lead to the new career. Opportunities are found through people, says career expert Nicole Williams, former connection director at LinkedIn and author of Earn What You're Worth. Sending your resume out to a black hole job portal will not get you the job, she says, but having someone who can vouch for you will. So identify 3 or 4 people who are steps ahead of you in their careers, reach out to them. She says there's no one perfect way to do it, but some research on LinkedIn, or do some research on LinkedIn. She also says you can tap into your existing network to see if someone is connected to a person at a certain position or organization that you're interested in. So just kind of bringing that awareness to friends, or that I'm starting to kind of explore options, or just put yourself out there more. So the acceptance and commitment therapy model there again is, I don't know anybody, or I don't know when any of those events are. It's wild to just sit there and watch that even in a session and that's why I kind of set that up with the business coaching, for example, because in the therapy world, again, no good therapist is going to say, you just need to do this, because it's not going to be something that's coming from where that person is. But if it's, I'm wondering if this would work. I'm wondering if, from a coaching standpoint, you can do a little bit more with that, where it might be, hey, here's an idea. Here's something that's worked for other people. And then watch how that reason giving machine in the brain works. It would be, well, I don't know when any of those events are, or I can't get that time off of work, or the brain just goes into that automatically. And so, okay, go ahead, and if you want to fuse to that, then you're stuck. And then you don't have to actually do the work of seeing if there are events that aren't during lunchtime, or seeing if there are events that are on the weekend, or, basically doing the work, right? Okay, here's a good one. Common resolution. I'm going to be a better husband, or I'm going to be a better boyfriend, or I'm going to be a better wife, or be a better mom, or any of those sort of things. And a smarter resolution is maybe going to be, I'm going to try to be more present with my kids, or I'm going to try to go on, be there more for my wife. I'm going to try to communicate more. I'm going to make an effort to apologize. I'm just going to bring some awareness. I need something more tangible than I'm just going to be a better whatever person. Why it works, this smarter resolution: generalized promises to be better and make your partner happier don't normally help you achieve the intimacy you're after, says marriage family therapist Paul Hokemeyer, PhD. Instead, you become more intimate with your partner when you deliver your promises through actions. Apologizing, for example, is a concrete action that deepens trust, respect, and intimacy, Hokemeyer says. Plus, apologizing lets your partner know that you see and hear them, which is important for any type of meaningful connection. Also, admitting that you are not perfect, it shows your vulnerability, which can make your partner feel safe in the relationship. And it's not just about saying I was wrong. Simply acknowledging that you heard what your partner said and that you understand, or at least are trying to understand, is a good first step. It shows empathy. And if you listen to any virtual couch episodes, empathy is huge. That is a very big thing. The acceptance and commitment therapy goal would be here. If it's, if the new smarter resolution is, I'm going to make an effort to apologize when I should, and now step back and watch the reason giving machine, also known as the brain. Or it's I don't even know what that would look like. I'm going to feel silly doing that. I don't think my wife would really appreciate that. Believe all of those. If you want to fuse any of those stories, then you don't have to do the work. But notice what your brain's trying to do. It's trying to hook you and fuse you to these thoughts of, she doesn't want to hear that anyway. I don't know when I would apologize. I feel awkward doing that. We're too busy. I never have time. Your brain is trying desperately to get you to not have to do this uncomfortable work of starting to apologize, or be more aware, or have more empathy. So do not fall to that trap. Let's see. Let's do one more. This is a big one. I'm going to save money. There's the common resolution. Smarter resolution. Oh, and this one just brings anxiety to me personally. I will create and maintain a budget. I'll even just go with I'll create a budget. I'll even just go with I'll become more aware of what I'm spending money on. Why it works: creating and sticking to a budget gives you the tools to help you save more, says Ted Braun, certified financial planner at Hoover Financial Advisors in Pennsylvania. If you make $50,000 a year, roughly $42,000 after taxes, and if your total fixed expenses are $2,500 a month, you should have $12,000 in the bank at the end of the year. And if you don't, you need to evaluate your discretionary spending, says Braun. There's no right or wrong way to create a budget, he said, but you want to make it as simple as possible, so you stick with it. Google around or use a budget worksheet, or create your own Excel spreadsheet. My mouth doesn't even know how to work with the word Excel because that leads to spreadsheet, and those make me uncomfortable. But see what my brain's trying to do? It's trying to fuse me to that. I can't do a budget story, because if I can fuse and hook to that story, then I don't actually have to do a budget, right? But so that's a good one. Instead of I'm just going to save money, start with I'm going to create a budget. I'm going to become more aware of my finances. So there's in the acceptance and commitment therapy model. Obviously, you can see where that's going. It is going with the number one is I don't have the time. I don't even know the password. I hear this one a lot. I don't even know the passwords to the bank account. All of those sort of things, and those are all great. Your brain really wants to hook and fuse to those stories around money, because you don't have to have the conversation with your partner, and you don't have to then do the work. So instead of playing some Toon Blast at night, you'd have to maybe enter some data in a spreadsheet. So your brain really, really likes Toon Blast. I think that's what we're learning here at the end of this podcast, right? So what are the takeaways? Acceptance and commitment therapy. First of all, let's go back. The mind bully, drop the rope. The mind bully will be left on the other side of that pit holding this rope and still yelling at you, trying to get you to believe or fuse to these things that he or she is telling you about yourself. Because if you believe them or fuse or hook to them, then you don't have to go out there and do the work. Resolutions. We want to go through the acceptance and commitment therapy model of everybody's going to have the thoughts or feelings or emotions that they do. Those are called private experiences in acceptance and commitment therapy. You're going to have the hesitation. You're going to have the desire. You're going to have the goals of any of those kind of things, because that's who you are. That's the baggage you bring to the table right now. A resolution that you want to do is because you want to do it because of all of these private experiences that you have. If someone else is telling you shouldn't want that one, again, no one wants to be should on, and no one should be shoulding on someone else. So this is your experience, your goal based on your values. Do a quick values check. I'll have something on the show notes where you could download, and it would be a link to this, the confidence gaps PDF file about doing some values work. But set your goals, your resolutions based on your individual values, things that are important to you. And then Norcross, was it John Norcross? Here's what he said. 5 things. Give yourself a reality check. Making sure that if you're trying to learn, the reality check is only in behavioral change is the expectation of perfection. In the psychological realm, we expect perfection. Think of it as like learning a new sport, a new instrument, learning how to cook a new recipe, that sort of thing. There will be trial and error, but then you're going to use that data to get back and work toward these resolutions. So there's number 1, give yourself a reality check. Number 2, reframe your resolution. And that's the one where you're likely to succeed if you're doing more of enjoying a day-to-day pursuit of a resolution. Number 3, find a buddy. And I love how the Norcross said that virtually anybody can get through a couple of weeks with a neutral or even toxic environment, but then that begins to weigh heavily, and having a friend or family member who's going through the same thing will help you stick to it, especially in month 2 and beyond. Changing your environment, that's the one where if you can, eliminate triggers. That's a good thing to do. And I skipped this one. I had a note on that one that Norcross had said about changing your environment. He said, take a dessert, a habit many people try to kick. If you rarely eat dessert at home, but you tend to indulge during meals out, try to temporarily avoid the triggering behavior of eating in a restaurant, because that'll help you get used to going without dessert. Once you have a strong habit to fall back on, then you can gradually reintroduce restaurant meals back into your life. Restarting at the right time, and this is the one where there is a tiny bit of psychological truth to attaching a new behavior to the first of a month or a birthday or an anniversary. It might modestly improve your chances of success, says Norcross. But the caveat, don't wait for the big day if it's just another way to put off a healthy change. Then we went through the resolutions and what an acceptance and commitment therapy model looks like. So there you have it. Happy New Year. Whenever you listen to this, 2019 is going to be a big one. I promise it is. It's going to be a big one if you want it to be a big one. I don't mean that to sound so cheesy as you just got to want it. You just got to believe. I mean, because there's some truth there. Obviously you do. But this is going to be the new year of this acceptance and commitment therapy model. Even if you want this success, watch what your brain does. It's going to immediately say, yeah, I've tried it again. You don't understand my situation. I'm a year older. Maybe I'm not where I want to be. And those are all stories your brain's trying to get you to connect, fuse, hook to, because if it can get you to hook to those things, if it can get you to hook to the it never works for me anyway story, then you don't have to go do the work. And 2019 is going to be a year of learning your values, setting some goals, and then working with that data, keeping on moving forward, becoming authentic, and just becoming the person that you always thought you could be, really, or the person you never knew you could be, or the person that you want to be, not the one that everybody's telling you should be. We're going to figure out you. Hey, here is Tony again on Monday, December 30th, 2019. This was a part of the podcast where as I was wrapping it up, I was getting my mojo going. I was on my soapbox, I'm preaching, and I said, here's the 2019. So I first wanted to jump in there and just have it say, here's to, and then 2020. But I thought I would just jump in here again and say, if you've stuck in there this long, thanks for hanging in there with me. Here truly is the 2020. This is a new year. I know it's cliched. I think I probably just said it in the previous version of the podcast. New year, new you. But really is. Dial in those values and just, I know that phrase, authenticity, being authentic, vulnerable, those things at times can almost feel cliched or overused. But that really is the truth. I mean, here I am a year later, and the more people I get to work with, the more people I talk to, the more people I present in front of, that when you find out what truly is important to you, when you're not trying to go after those what we call socially compliant goals, when you're kind of going after things that are more important to you, and you watch that whole process of unfolding happen, that's when the magic starts to happen. That's when you really start to feel that confidence. Sure, you still have some up days, down days, frustrating days, but when you are living a life that is more driven by your values, what's important to you, you just feel this all-around just sense of purpose. And that, my friends, truly is what drives happiness. So here is to 2020. This is the year. I appreciate that you being here with me and listening to these podcasts. Again, it's wild to look a year down the road and see what this last year has brought to me, my family, the virtual couch, the practice, and I just am so grateful for that, and I look forward to even making this year, 2020, even better still. All right, have a fantastic new year, and I will see you next year on the virtual couch.
Compressed emotions flying past our heads and out the other end. The pressures of the daily grind, it's wonderful. Elastic waste and rubber ghost are floating past the midnight hour. They push aside the things that matter most. It's wonderful. I have to wonder which ghost is mine. He eats my ponder and somehow takes up all my time. The screen fireflies, they tickle all my fancies unto vomit. It drowns us all deep in our dreams. Exciting news, a discount price, a million opportunities. The chance is yours to take or lose. It's wonderful.